Oh, let me do like the nightly news update. I watched I'll cover a few issues and just kind of upload this, and I'm going to upload videos in a few seconds. I watched ABC News, and as the ABC News comes on, I want to see what the world stories are, you know? Top story: Trump is sticking by his fixer. The fixer is like a nickname for the lawyer Michael Cohen, Trump's personal lawyer, who they raided his offices. And top news: Trump is sticking by his fixer. Now, Trump is not referring to him as, quote, the fixer in his tweets and all. Why are they sticking with it? Because it goes along with the whole Mr. Comey referring to him as a mob boss, all right? That, that should be on a blog, left or right, or left-wing blog. Not top. That was the top news, and on ABC. Then the other thing was something else against the porn star, something about her too. I couldn't, but I went to CBS. Now CBS News, it happens to be a black anchor for the weekend, but I'll tell you, they did a much better job. They did cover some of the other stories, but you want to be professional, and the media is just not professional. I'll get to a few other things. Also, they reported, ABC reported, the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, he on his own said they're going to stop doing their nuclear tests and all before this meeting that Mr. Trump is supposed to have with the leader of North Korea. All right, that would be a fairly good development. It doesn't mean it's set in stone. But the way ABC News reported it was the leader of North Korea is now, there's some progress. For many years we've had no progress under multiple presidents with the thing of the denuclearization of North Korea. So that would be considered maybe a little hopeful. The first thing they reported was, but how do we know it will work? I would assume even if you had 50 years of North Korea denuclearized, in 50 years you'd still have the media after everybody's dead. No, the sons of the media would say, but you never know. And why is it kind of interesting? Because in the news right now is the tragedy that's going on in Syria. Also, there was another news thing about Iran. Now, both Syria and Iran, Mr. Obama made deals with them that anybody that I commented on them at the time, but anybody that looked at those deals questioned whether or not they were good deals. But the media praised just the announcement of the deal, the same announcement of this thing with the leader of North Korea, which the media just mocked. But when Mr. Obama made those same types of tentative deals, if you will, they praised him to the point where they were trying to give John Kerry, Secretary of State, the Nobel Peace Prize because he worked out a particular deal with Iran, not getting rid of their nukes, but basically slowing down the certain development of them, how verified these deals were. And the one in Syria, the reason it's important, they also praised Mr. Obama on the Syria deal that Bashar Assad would get rid of his chemical weapons. They praised him for that. And at the time, I knew he didn't get rid of them because the proof that he got rid of them was Russia, the ally of Syria, was the one that was taking them. Meaning the chemical weapons under Mr. Obama's deal were all being transported out of Syria to Russia under Russia's oversight. Okay, common sense just told you, those that follow it, that of course he didn't get rid of them. But there's still always a question whether or not rebels or other groups are using ones that they've obtained as well in order to spark stuff. But it was just it was just interesting the way I saw it. Now, I wasn't going to mention this, but being we do have it on, there was a lady that they were looking for. The local media reported it's possible she's in Corpus Christi. She was guilty of a murder or two murders, possibly, I forget now. But they gave the description and the car she was in to keep an eye out for her in Corpus Christi. Of course, I just see it as I see the news. A friend of mine, the other day, he asked me, he was asking, do you know if they caught that lady yet, John? I said, actually, they caught her this morning in South Padre Island, which is not in Corpus Christi, okay? It's down by close to Mexico, Port Isabel and all. And she was like, kind of wanted and played into some of this. My friend, when I showed him the car on the local news, I said, this is her. That lady was parked in Flower Bluff before she headed down to South Padre. She was parked on the same street where the police chief lives, Chief Mike Markle. My friend, he checks everything out for security purposes because he's always seeing who's parked around. He lives in the same neighborhood. But he didn't realize it was her until he looked at, and I'm not blaming the chief, but it seems as if that woman was parked on the chief's block. And I know a chief of police in any city is going to be very busy, and it's not his fault. But you'd think they would be a little more aware because they're the entity that if you look out for if there's anything going on. So that was kind of interesting. I threw that in just as a side note. And I won't go long. I don't believe tomorrow I'm going to do the Sunday sermon because the one from last Sunday, I haven't even really started working on it yet or reviewing it. So I'm going to be a little behind on that. And hopefully you'll see that in a few days. And then you'll see God willing, I'll do the next chapter of Colossians. I've been messing with the websites a lot, so it gets you a little bit behind. I also noticed something in all of these things that we see in media. It's very interesting that just on the James Comey and all of this, not only were their charges referred to the prosecutors about Andrew McCabe, but also they're preliminary now looking at Mr. Comey, because some think, yes, he broke the law in leaking his personal memos to a friend of his, which he admitted before Congress, and that friend gave him to the New York Times. And there was a legal question. If you have discussions with any president, the president has sort of like a privilege that you don't reveal things, particularly if they're not crimes, but if you're just leaking things. And so he put himself also now in legal jeopardy. And it's interesting because that was the same things that they were kind of somewhat doing. And I don't want to, how could that be that some of the people, it's interesting because a lot of what we investigated now, which hopefully will come to a close pretty soon, a lot of what we investigated was were there contacts between a political campaign, Mr. Trump, with particular Russian operatives. Did you have any contacts? You collude and all this? And look, you did have that. Look, I'm not being partisan. You actually had the Clinton people, DNC, paid for a Russian dossier, paid a man by the name of Steele, had these contacts with Russia, and that made it into the hands of the FBI and our agencies in this country. Okay. And when Mr. Comey presented that to Trump, he didn't inform Trump. We actually have information bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats with contacts with the Russians. And this is the so-called dossier. And when Mr. Comey brought that to the president, George Stephanopoulos recently asked him and said, "Why didn't you let the president know this was opposition research?" And Comey said, "I didn't think I needed to." That entire chain of events, if it was the other way around, if you had evidence that Mr. Trump and Michael Cohen and his people had contacts with the Russians to get opposition research, and they used a foreign ex-spy who was not registered as a lobbyist, who shouldn't have been having contacts like that, that in itself, as soon as that dossier, if it was the other way around, made it into the hands of the FBI, right there would have been enough proof of collusion by a campaign, because you have it all there. Instead, they used it in the opposite way, and the tables are in a sense being turned. And I think Mr. Comey, I don't think he's a bad man, and he's a Christian man, but I think it seems almost strange that the tables kind of have turned this way. And people should not discount that when many Christians, including myself, regardless of who's in authority, I prayed for Mr. Obama as well as all the presidents according to that scripture, regularly, by name, on a weekly basis. And don't discount that there are many, many Christians, like myself, that pray for the president, regardless of party or race or creed. And that gives a particular type of a grace to a president, even if he's not worthy of it. He's now in a position where probably most Americans, if there's any one single person that most Americans are praying for regularly, it happens to be the president, regardless of who it is. And I think that plays a role in how sometimes these things are turned around. Okay? I understand that a lot of these people that are in these things felt they were noble in some of the things they did, and now they realize, man, there's like a microscope on us, Mr. Comey and others. So that should be something you don't discount. But I'll do this as the little update. I'll get that Sunday one up in a few days, the one I made last Sunday. Oh, one other note, and as I work on websites and all these things, I went to a fairly prominent news site, a big news site. If I mentioned it, everybody would know about it. And somebody must have hacked one of their actual links on the site. It's a link for Pinterest, but it's on their front page of their news site. Because I clicked it, just checking links for my own stuff. And if you click the link to that site, it takes you to a lady who somehow managed, this is how the tech world is. It's not real racy. And but it's, somebody hacked that site. And it's up there now for a while, because I finally sent a comment and said, somebody hacked your official site. And of course, news media have sites, like we have sites. And so, it's just interesting. Julian Assange, it's interesting, the DNC, the Democrats, now are bringing a civil suit against Trump, WikiLeaks, and Julian Assange. And I read a response by Julian Assange. Mr. Trump also tweeted on it. And he said, good. Now we're going to countersue, and we're going to finally get you to release that server. And let me tell you, there was, the FBI investigated the Hillary Clinton matter, Russian collusion. They never actually got the server, the computers. You do an investigation, you get those. They never actually got the ones, not the ones she bleached. Well, they did another thing, bleach bit. So they said the Trump people are going to do their own civil suit to get them to finally release it. Julian Assange actually responded. He's still claiming that a lot of this was not from Russia. But he also responded in the thing that I've said myself. He said, isn't that funny? The Democrats are suing me, WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, for revealing the truth. And what most people should always keep in mind, the way people and Hillary and Democrats complain that the election was swayed towards Trump is somebody released a lot of emails and stuff from the Clintons and from the Democrats that revealed truth. Don't forget that. Nobody ever claimed that there was false stuff that the Russians or WikiLeaks or Trump propagated. The dossier highly is a fake thing, okay? But nobody's, even the Hillary herself, she's not claiming that they released fake news on her. She's claiming that they released the manipulation that they did behind the scenes. And there's a lot of Christians that are mad, whether it's an Assange or whoever. They're mad that truth came out. And you know, the scripture actually, Jesus says, whatever you say in the closet, it's going to be shouted upon the housetop. So many of my good Christian brothers and sisters, if you're mad because truth got leaked, whether it's a government, a country, and you knew behind the scenes, you said, wow, I didn't know that that country or that king or that ruler was really doing deceptive things. Don't be so upset if those things do get leaked, if it's truth, okay? Because a lot of that, when it got shouted on the housetops, regardless if it's a political thing, it's good to know that if people behind the scenes, and there were leaders of other countries that we were aligned with these last 15 years, and I remember WikiLeaks released a discussion we had. It might have been Pakistan. I don't want to get it wrong. Might have been under General Musharraf or the man who followed him in Pakistan, the next president leader. But we, in some of the discussions, talking about we wanted to be careful with the drones and all going after the Taliban, and said, you know, if we just bomb indiscriminately in that certain region of Waziristan, we don't want to kill civilians. And the leader, either the commander or the general of that particular country, said, we don't care. You could kill our people, like parents and kids. That's all right. Just if they get killed, we don't care. That was leaked by WikiLeaks. It was one thing. And it revealed to the people that lived in Pakistan, if I have that exactly right, but it was, the scenario is correct. And it revealed to them, wow. So it wasn't a bad thing that the truth of the motives of that particular man's heart were revealed many years ago. Because the people then living there would realize, wow, we either maybe elected a particular man or voted for him, and he spoke that way about us. And so if truth is revealed, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And the only possibility that many are claiming is that certain emails and things were revealed that were true about manipulation and all. And if that comes out on both parties, good. Whether it comes out on Trump or Clinton or Obama, Loretta Lynch, there was some other things. If those things come out, fine. Okay? So I'll end this, and it will almost 20 minutes. Okay? Bless you guys tonight. I'll upload a few videos in a few minutes, and I'll upload this right now.